You are listening to Season 2 of The Diary of a Wannabe Writer, the short and often daily podcast in which I chronicle my life and attempt to be a writer by writing daily. Sometimes. Hello, it's Monday the 27th of October 2025 and you're listening to The Diary of a Wannabe Writer. And this is an emergency podcast. Now, my normal emergency podcasts that I used to do last year were literally, I used to record 2 or 3 in advance. And then if I got to the point where I just either couldn't be bothered or wasn't in the right mood or whatever to do a podcast, I would then chuck that out. And you could tell it was an emergency podcast because I didn't say the date of the episode. Well, I've done that today. So it's not like the old emergency podcasts. Or the old emergency podcast was so much better. What I'm going to talk about today is kind of how I'm feeling about what I'm going to do in the future around publishing books, because I had this conversation with Tanya Campbell yesterday, and in fact a couple of times over the weekend. So I haven't entirely decided what I'm going to do yet, but the first thing I've decided to do is I am going to get the English Hikikomori professionally edited. I think that's a good idea. I haven't decided what I'm going to do with it beyond that. I'm not having much success querying it, to be honest, with agents, but what I might be able to do is try and get an independent book publisher interested, and I think if it's been professionally edited, that would help that. So I mean, I've got so many options at this point, and I shouldn't really give up the querying because I think I've only sent it off to about 15 people, but I've just got this feeling it's not going to get anywhere. So, but I mean, I could be wrong. So yes, at some point, I will, in the next few months, I will try and get that book professionally edited, and then I'll have to make a decision whether I start contacting independent publishers or whether I self-publish through, obviously, someone like Amazon. In fact, it would be through Kindle Direct Publishing. And obviously that means having to design a cover and stuff like that, whereas I suppose the advantage, as Tanya was saying, of getting an independent person to do it, they would do a little bit of marketing, because obviously they need to sell it, because although they're not as big as a regular publisher, they still need to make the money back from anything they've invested in creating the book. So that's looking like an option, possibly. But the first thing is to select an editor. Now, the lazy side of me has just said to Tanya, "Oh, who do you use? Is she any good? Great, right, let's do that then." And then, I'm not going to lie, I probably will do something like that. But what I will do is I will what Tanya said is basically contact a couple of editors, get them to do a sample of editing. So send them, I don't know how much they want to do, whether it's a chapter, whether it's a few pages, but they will send you a sample of their work, and you can decide whether that's for you or not. And she was also explaining how the editing of her books works. So she basically gets a document and then she can say yay or nay to any of the changes the editor recommends. So it's literally a case of, accepting or rejecting the differences. So that sounds quite good, because I think there will be the odd occasion where you think, no, actually the reason I said it that way was, well, in my case, if it's in something like Still Life, it might be because that's relevant to something that happens in a later book or something like that. But anyway, so that's something I think I'm going to do. And as I say, then I'll make a decision about what I do with it beyond that. And then I think with Still Life, that's the one I should be querying, because I think it's a better story. I think it's a more accessible story. And the only thing I need to do at some point, very soon obviously, is to actually create the submissions package, which I know I've been talking about for a long time. This is the thing. I've managed to use this podcast to make myself more productive, and I have been more productive when it comes to the writing, but so far I haven't found a way to make myself be more productive when it comes to the ancillary tasks around writing, which in this particular case, the thing I need to do, and I've been talking about it for a big chunk of the year, probably since I finished hopefully that final draft of Still Life, was to create a submissions package for it. Now that involves writing a synopsis. I have written one, it's not very good. I need to basically well, the original, one side of me just wanted to start the whole synopsis, try and adapt the one I'd already done to make it better, but I think the best thing to do will be just to make it as concise as possible and start again. I need to write a cover letter, although that's not too difficult. I need to select some agencies to send it off to. Yeah, because there's a side of me that thinks that would be a better book, and also the fact I'll be able to turn around and say, well, actually, I'm over halfway through writing a sequel. I mean, I know I haven't been particularly productive this month, but the reality is I wrote the first proper words of Self-Portrait, the sequel to Still Life, in July, and by the end of this month I'll have written 2/3 of it. Hopefully by the end of the year, but certainly by the end of January, I should have finished the first draft and then potentially be working on the third book on a blank canvas. I'm calling the series The Triptych, because that's an art reference to a panel, a painting in 3 panels, which is kind of relevant. Anyway, so yeah, those are my thoughts for what I'm going to do, because I've got to get it out there somewhere. At the moment, I'm writing all this stuff, but if anybody says, oh, can I read anything you've written? I've not published anything in any form, whether it's self-published or whatever. So, yeah, that feels like a next step. But, yes, we shall have to see if I actually do it. Anyway, that's me. As you listen to this, I'm probably watching Midsummer Murders being performed live in the Richmond Theatre or something like that. Anyway, thank you for listening. I'll be back at a similar time tomorrow. Take care. Thanks. Bye-bye. You have been listening to The Diary of a Wannabe Writer. For more information about what I'm writing, go to linktr.ee/Richard Writes, capital R, capital W, where you can find details of my website and social media. I may see you there.